Spielberg's Hook is one of those movies that I completely understand why so many people grew up loving, even if I don't think it fully reaches the heights of Spielberg's absolute best work. The premise alone is fantastic. The idea that Peter Pan grew up, forgot who he was, became a stressed out workaholic adult, and has to rediscover his imagination and sense of wonder is kind of brilliant. It's the type of concept that naturally works both kids and adults at the same time. Kids get the fun fantasy adventure, while adults connect with the deeper meaning about growing up, forgetting your childhood joy, and remembering what really matters. And of course, the cast is brilliant. Robin Williams is exactly the kind of actor you want playing an older Peter Pan, because he naturally balances the childlike energy with emotional sincerity. Earlier in the movie, he's intentionally frustrating because Peter has become so disconnected from his family and imagination, but Robin Williams makes the character sympathetic enough that you still want to see him rediscover himself. Once the movie fully lets him become Peter Pan again, you can feel the energy of the film pick up immediately. And then there's Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook, who's clearly having the time of his life in this role. He plays Hook with this perfect mix of theatrical comedy and genuine menace. He's over the top in the best possible way, without ever turning into a complete cartoonish villain. The scenes between him and Peter are some of the strongest parts of the movie, because both actors fully commit to the emotional side underneath all the fantasy. One of the biggest standouts is Dante Basco. Long before he voiced Prince Zuko in Avatar The Last Airbender, he was already stealing scenes. His character Rufio could have easily just been this cool 90s kid stereotype, but Basco gives him real charisma and attitude. He brings a lot of energy to Lost Boys scenes, and he ends up being one of the most memorable parts of the entire movie. I also think the movie succeeds visually for the most part. Neverland feels massive and imaginative in that classic Spielberg way. The pirate sets are huge, colorful, and detailed, and the Lost Boys hideout feels like the kind of place kids would dream about living in. That being said, I do think parts of the movie hold it back from being truly great. Probably the biggest issue for me is casting of Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell. I don't necessarily blame her entirely, because the character was written a little weak to begin with, but she just feels miscast. Tinkerbell is supposed to have this playful spark and charm, and here she feels kind of awkward and distracting whenever the movie focuses on her. It's one of the few casting choices in the film that never fully clicked. Some elements also feel very tied to early 90s trends in a way that dates the movie a bit. The Lost Boys having skateboarding ramps and extreme sports-style aesthetics feels like the movie trying really hard to appeal to what kids thought was cool at the time. Sometimes it works, but other times it pulls me out of the timeless fairy tale atmosphere Spielberg seems to be aiming for elsewhere. And I know it sounds harsh talking about child actors, especially for a family movie, but compared to Spielberg's earlier films like E.T. or Empire of the Sun, the actors playing Peter's kids don't feel nearly as natural or emotionally convincing. Their performances aren't terrible, but some scenes come across as a little stiff or phoned in emotionally. Ironically, the Lost Boys themselves are actually much stronger and more entertaining overall. I was also surprised rewatching it by how dark parts of the movie can get. Spielberg has always balanced family-friendly adventure with dark emotional material, but there are moments here that feel heavier than people remember. There's literally a child death in this movie, and it's treated with genuine emotional weight. It adds stakes, but also creates this weird tonal balancing act where the movie sometimes feels caught between whimsical children's fantasy and dark emotional drama. And it's not a fake-out death or a last-minute resurrection. The kid stays dead. Still, even with all its flaws, there's something undeniably heartfelt about Hook. It's messy, uneven, and occasionally dated, but it also has a ton of imagination and sincerity. The central message about reconnecting with your family and rediscovering your inner child really does land, especially as you get older. It's the kind of movie that may not work perfectly every scene, but the emotional core is strong enough to remember how it felt more than its individual flaws. I completely understand why this became a childhood favorite for so many people, even if I personally think it falls just short of Spielberg's top-tier classics. For me, it gets a B, an 8 out of 10, and 4 out of 5 stars.